It's Bradley. It's Wyatt. We're back. Man versus machine. Woo! After a 1 week hiatus, we're back at the grind. We've got some surprises. We've got enough data. We are 6 weeks in, Wyatt. We can just throw out what we were thinking about over the summer. We've got enough data. We've got 6 weeks of information. We've got surprises. You know, I thought this was very interesting. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. Before we get into our analysis, I thought this was a lot of fun. Just looking back at last year, Underdog Fantasy, they tweeted this through week 6 of last season. Jaden Reed, so this was 2024. Jaden Reed was the wide receiver 3. Jordan Mason was the running back 5. David Montgomery was outscoring Jahmyr Gibbs, who ended up becoming the running back 1. Alan Lazard was the wide receiver 8 with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, what a time. I forgot about that.
What did Lazard have? A 2 touchdown game?
Yeah, he had a few touchdowns to start the season. Yeah,
it was wild because I'm pretty sure that was a primetime game, and I sent a tweet out and I said, that
sounds familiar. Yeah, like a 2 touchdown primetime game.
I need 2 touchdowns from Alan Lazard, and we got the first one, like I think in the third quarter.
Well, how do you find yourself in a position where you need 2 touchdowns from Alan Lazard?
Look, there's an Alan Lazard jersey right behind me. You know, it's kind of falling off a little bit because he's kind of fallen off. But I need 2 touchdowns from Alan Lazard, and at the beginning of the third quarter, he got it for me, and I'm like, okay, you got one of them. And then he got a garbage time end of fourth quarter touchdown to get me there, and I felt pretty good about it. So thank you, Alan Lazard, wide receiver 8 through week 6 of 2024. Here's a throwback for you. Deontay Johnston was the wide receiver 19 in 2024 at this time last year through 6 weeks. How you feel about that, Wyatt?
Led by Andy Dalton stepping in.
Yes.
The red rifle. Yeah. How far he's fallen since that time.
How many teams has he bounced around since?
At least 4, right?
The Ravens, the Texans, the Browns.
There's got to be another one in there.
Yeah.
Well,
so of course the Panthers.
Yeah.
So at least 4 teams since this time last year.
Yeah.
And then Bucky Irving was the running back 30. So things can change very quickly here, Wyatt, and that's why we're going to talk about some of our biggest surprises in the rankings as we enter week 7. Some of these players are just surprising to us. Like, what are we doing in terms of like season average stats? Like, where we'll talk about some big people that we had high expectations for and they've just not lived up to it, or they've blown expectations out of the water. And maybe, is that sustainable? Is this something that we can count on moving forward? So Wyatt, kick us off with your first biggest surprise here through week 6, entering week number 7.
It's TreVeyon Henderson, who talked about him with Chris Allen on the news press coverage too. And we are both just grasping at straws to try and find the hope in the season for TreVeyon Henderson, because it's been so bad to start the season. He's at 7.8 PPR points per game. He's 34th in yards per touch. He's 25th in yards created per touch, this is like what he was supposed to be. He's supposed to be an efficient player, right? That's 47th in juke rate. Like, what happened to TreVeyon Henderson? Where is he? Because this isn't him. I think he's playing stiff. I think he's in his head or something. Like, he's not playing loose out there because he's just not playing like himself at this point. And the biggest thing that we could grasp when we were talking about press coverage is that, Ramondre has not been good either. Basically, Ramondre's had one good game, and that was against the Dolphins, who are one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So it's not like he has a high bar to cross. It's concerning that he hasn't crossed that bar, though, yet. So the hope is that, Ramondre continues to fumble away his chances, is not good, and eventually TreVeyon Henderson locks in and can get there. Amarian Hampton was the same to start the season, that we were saying the same thing. Like, he looks tight when he's running. He's not, we're not seeing the same Amarian Hampton we're used to. It took him a little bit to get in the groove. Now, it only took him 2 games, basically, whereas taking TreVeyon 6 or more. But hopefully Henderson gets it under control. But I'm very surprised at the play we're getting from TreVeyon Henderson so far.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation because we were monitoring whether Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson would be splitting touches throughout the off season, in their practices, the preseason, and I think the difference in the Amari and Hampton situation was not Najee Harris was not getting any of that preseason work because of the eye injury. It was all Amari and Hampton. So the first couple weeks, yeah, he's still getting his sea legs out from under him, but that's, I think, why we saw the explosion pretty quickly for Hampton. He moved pretty quickly onto the scene, and then some of the feedback, like the New England beat writers had received through, let's say, the first 3-4 weeks, were why aren't the Patriots using TreVeyon Henderson? And the response from the beat writers has mostly been, well, they just don't want to rush him. They just don't want to rush him. They feel like they want to develop him in the right way. And that's, I guess, good for NFL TreVeyon Henderson, but not good for fantasy TreVeyon Henderson, especially when you get the round 2 draft capital, you get what we projected to be a good landing spot. And we thought that he would be able to push over Ramondre pretty quickly. And Ramondre's not given us the play that we've seen spike week Ramondre in the past, and he's continued to play pretty poorly. So, I would say that it is surprising as well from a performance perspective. But the difference in the situations, I think, highlights maybe what we as fantasy analysts, we get really excited in the offseason when it hits a lot of it checks a lot of the boxes. He's got the talent, he's got the draft capital, he's got the landing spot. He doesn't have what we perceive to be tough competition. So, like, hindsight is 2020, of course, but now we're in a situation where, like, how many weeks in a row do we need to see it, Wyatt, for TreVeyon? What do we need to see for TreVeyon Henderson for us to feel comfortable, like, even putting him as a flex option?
I need to see his play improve. I need him to look like TreVeyon Henderson. Like, that's my biggest concern at this point. It's not that he hasn't really crossed over Ramondre in terms of opportunities. Like, well, this is something we even talked about. Like, we still expected Ramondre to have a role on this team. We didn't think TreVeyon Henderson was going to be like a 3-down workhorse. We thought he'd have a valuable role on the offense and be efficient in it. And he doesn't have the efficiency yet. So if we can start to see that, I can start having hope, because then he's at least getting to a point where he can be explosive, like we expect, and he can score some fancy points that way, the way we thought he would, in the passing game, that kind of thing. And I can expect some opportunities to come once he's playing in that way. But until then, it's tough to even have faith in your lineup at all.
Well, a player that we got a lot of faith in and it's now like ramping up because Rashee Rice is activated from the suspension list. Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback 1 overall. And I think this is surprising for me because some of the stats are just, wow, he is really trying something different than what the last 2 years we've seen from Patrick Mahomes. We saw conservative Mahomes. We saw short dink and dunk Mahomes. And I think the real difference, we look at like deep ball attempts. He's number 3. He's number 3 in pass attempts. They're number 7 in pace of play. They're moving quickly down the field. He's number 1 in money throws, number 2 in air yards. He's really stretching defenses in ways that, frankly, Matt Nagy has not had him do the last couple of years. And that was my biggest hang up in terms of addressing Mahomes. Because you think about the start of the season, you have an aged Kelsey. You have a suspended Rashee Rice. Jalen Royals isn't contributing almost anything right now. And your running back situation isn't there. So the only real big piece for the Kansas City Chiefs was Xavier Worthy. And we talked all offseason about my skepticism of, is Xavier Worthy going to be that type of player? And guess what? He gets injured and misses a couple weeks to start the season. And he's And Patrick Mahomes is still the quarterback 1 going into week number 7. So even with all of those pieces, Mahomes is still making it happen for fantasy because he's found Juju Smith-Schuster, for instance, or he'll get a few good passes to Noah Gray. And I think the other part is that the running back room still doesn't have an answer. Like, it's a toss-up between Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, and the hopium exists, I suppose, for the Brashad Smith truthers out there. But I think that's the biggest surprise is Mahomes is trying something different, right? And you're seeing just deep passes. You're seeing winning down the field, something we haven't seen from Mahomes over the last couple of years.
I'm surprised in the way in which he's doing it. I'm not necessarily surprised that he bounced back because this was kind of something that I was projecting a little bit. Just that, like, after dinking dunking for a couple of years and then falling short last year, I was just like, I can't see Mahomes and Andy Reid sitting back and thinking they're going to do that again in 2025, especially with the division looking much better than it has in years past. And if the defense is worse at all, they're going to have to try and put up points. So these are some things where I was like, I think Mahomes is going to still come back. I did not expect him to be QB1.
No.
And I did not expect him to be QB1 with losing Xavier Worthy to start the season, in addition to what, like, the things you're saying. Like, we knew that Rashee Rice was going to be suspended. Kelsey's old. A nothing from Jalen Royals. Like, if you told me all those things and then Xavier Worthy got hurt, I'd be like, yeah, it's going to be a rough start just, for the beginning of the season probably. But, like, he's running more than he ever has in the regular season, which is something I don't think any of us could have projected, because it's this literally every season of his career, he's been the same way with his rushing. Is that we know he can do it, but he only really pulls it out when he has to in, like, crunch time. Right. And now it's to start the season, he did it. So it's, for everyone who drafted Mahomes, it's fantastic. And this is all before they're full strength, and now they're about to be full strength. So this is exciting for Mahomes.
It is. And I've had a couple Patrick Mahomes teams on Dynasty leagues that have just been decaying and dying over the last couple of years. And finally, I think I put in one of the group chats on Sleeper, I was like, Mahomes is awakened. And I finally pulled off a victory in one of these leagues where, like, you just can't trade Patrick Mahomes in these Dynasty leagues. You don't want to give him up, but also you're stuck with him. You felt stuck with Patrick Mahomes the last couple of years. So finally he's resurrected here.
Check this out. In one of my Dynasty leagues before the season, I actually traded away JJ McCarthy and a first for Mahomes, which at the time I bet a lot of people would have taken the JJ McCarthy and first side of it. And as somebody who was into JJ McCarthy this offseason, I thought was a bit risky. I just wanted to play off some of that risk because I was getting a lot of exposure to JJ McCarthy in general. So I was looking at a way of diversifying, and that's an avenue I found. And now I'm like, crush that one.
Sometimes we can get that leverage, get that win. And McCarthy, if those who are tuning in didn't hear, he's expected to miss more time with the ankle. He's limited in practice. Says his ankle is not doing well. Do you think it's real? I think it is real. I think it's real.
Little tinfoil hat going on here, but I don't know.
I think it's
suspicious the entire time to me.
I think it's real. I think it's real. Yeah. I don't think Carson Wentz has done amazing. He's had a couple games where, sure,
he hasn't.
He's been fine.
Yeah, he's been fine. But McCarthy was, like, so bad. Are they trying to give him more time and make it look like not a benching? I don't know.
I'm not there yet. All right, Wyatt, hit us with your next biggest surprise for the season.
Probably, like, my biggest miss this offseason, and that's Javonte Williams, because I was like, do not draft Javonte Williams, like, at all. I would rather draft Jaden Blue than Javonte Williams straight up. And boy, was that a terrible call. Just absolutely awful call.
Don't let fancy receipts hear this, Wyatt.
They can come for me. I'm cool with fancy receipts. I've sent some of mine to them. I got no problem. Check out my Twitter. I call out myself all the time. I've called myself out on Javonte Williams multiple times now on Twitter. But I thought, Javonte Williams in Denver last year, like, he had a good role. 200 carries, I believe it was like 76 targets, and was under 10 PPR points per game, which is just like dreadful. And he was at that point 2 years removed from the devastating knee injury. So in my mind, he's enough removed from the injury that I think he's probably just kind of sapped of a lot of his athleticism at this point. I don't know if he's ever going to get it back. Not to the point in which I want to be excited about drafting him, even at his cost, which was fairly cheap. It was just like, I don't know if he's going to hang on to this job, even if he's like getting that projectable volume to start the season. Is it going to be there all season? I don't know. And he's just been great. Like, he kind of looks like rookie year Javonte, if we're being honest. 18.7 PPR points per game at this point. He's 4th in weighted opportunities. He's 14th in yards created per touch. He's got 12.2% target share. Like, he looks great, and he's getting the work, and he's doing well with it. I'm just like straight up wrong about Javonte Williams.
Yeah, he was a player I had zero exposure to most of the summer. And then it was like, well, the drum beat is just so heavy for Javonte that I needed some exposure. I needed to make sure that there was an increasing chance as we got to the end of July and beginning of August that, okay, Javonte sounds like he's got a firm stranglehold on this starting position. And even if he's inefficient, we think about who else is there. Like, yeah, Blue could be there, but there was a lot of offseason chatter about his work ethic and whether he's moving up the depth chart and able to jump Miles Sanders. And whether you believed all of that or not, there was at least a non-zero chance, right? And so I think that's what one of the lessons I've leaned into is like, yes, I may be out on this player, but I'm willing to like get myself up to some exposure if we get some shifts in narrative. And that's this is probably like 90th percentile outcome for Javonte Williams. Like, there's even those who believed that Javonte would be the RB1 for the season, I don't think that this was the outcome projected for Dallas.
Right.
So yeah, it was a major surprise.
Yeah.
The efficiency. And I think also that you mentioned the 12% target share, that offense has been humming. Like, they've been scoring points because the defense isn't good. They've gotten into these shootouts, and he hasn't left the field mostly. So yeah, Javonte Williams.
Yep.
Woo. Okay. My biggest surprise after Mahomes is running back Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. And I will put all the asterisks, the stars, the whatever you want, the caveats that, oh, this offense would look so different if Joe Burrow had been there for the duration of the Cincinnati Bengals season. And that's certainly possible. But Chase Brown is averaging 2.7 yards per carry on the season, Wyatt. That's disastrous. And yes, he's getting the targets. He's getting the opportunity. We projected that he would have the opportunity is almost 80% opportunity share in that backfield. Taj Brooks hasn't done almost anything. It's just been a sprinkling of Samaje Perine here and there. But Chase Brown has done nothing on the ground. He's 202 rushing yards in 6 games. That's 32nd. There are 32 starting running backs. You're telling me that Chase Brown is the worst of the starting running backs in the NFL? I mean, yeah, that's what the fantasy points would tell us. Oy vey. The juke rate is 32nd. The explosive rating is 47th. This is a player, Wyatt, who is 92nd percentile at 40-yard dash, 89th speed score, 94th percentile burst score. This is a strong, fast dude that is not showing any explosion at all, and like way worse than last year. So I don't know. We talked about, are we going to see some Taj Brooks later on this year? The Bengals might just explore and see what they have in some of these practice squad guys if this continues by the time we get to playoff season. So stash your stash your Taj Brooks for week 12 and beyond.
Yeah. I knew, obviously, we all knew that Chase Brown would be worse if Joe Burrow was not there. Did not expect this bad. Like, absolutely dreadful. 202 rushing yards on the entire season. So Rico Dowdle has more than doubled his rushing total in the last 2 games. That's wild. Like, what are we doing here? That's so crazy. I am surprised that he is as bad as he is without Joe Burrow. Like, literally unplayable. You can't have him in your lineup.
There's no upside to this offense, because I think the argument for Chase Brown was twofold. One is that he would get all the opportunity, which he's still getting the opportunities on almost 80% opportunity share. But the second is we tied ourselves to a running back on an offense that was just put up the franchise record for points scored last year. So yes, you take away that piece and you've got Jake Browning, who looks like just a puppet doll, and you've got 40-year-old Joe Flacco, who has probably as many gray hairs as I have and you have, and like love the dude, Super Bowl champion Joe Flacco, like put respect on his name, but the reality is that Chase Brown is still he's getting the passing work, and it's still not there. When you have 19, you have 49 total yards against Green Bay. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah, he's averaging 3.2 yards per touch. It's so bad. It's 51st amongst running backs.
Like, good players average at least 6. At least
his true yards per carry is 2.7. What are we doing here?
This is disaster zone. I mean, week 3 against Minnesota, he had 14 touches and 20 total yards.
Oh, gosh. It's just dreadful.
It's bad. It's bad stuff, Wyatt. So he's unplayable until we see this offense either get turned around. I don't know. I think that's the only pathway for Chase Brown, is this offense has to turn around, and you need to see it for multiple weeks. And so that's leading us into, he's not playable until minimum week 9.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, Joe Flacco, he might check down enough that we can get that going again. But this is the first time that Samaje Perine got involved, actually a little bit more and took some of that. So that was also pretty
season low in targets in the Joe Flacco debut.
Right.
Yikes.
So tough.
Yes, very tough. All right, Wyatt, hit us with your third player that surprised you this year.
Darren Waller. I truly did not expect anything from Waller. When he signed, I was like, y'all can spend some, draft picks on Darren Waller. Like, I'm good. Year removed from football. Last time we saw him, he was okay, but he seemed really disinterested in football in general. Like, I didn't know what this meant when he was coming back. I don't know what kind of shape he was going to be in. He was slow to ramp up, and I was like, yep, see, obviously, and then since he's been here, back these last 3 games, 4 touchdowns in those games. He scored 1 in each game, or at least 1 in each game. Boy, it's just actually surprising. He's working downfield. He looks still athletic. I just really didn't think that he'd be able to produce even relevant production. And right now he's a top 5 tight end because of the role that he has for the Dolphins. Now, some of that is propped up by Tyreek Hill now missing due to injury, making there be some opportunities available. But yeah, very surprised that Darren Waller is as good as he is right now in 2025.
Well, we're going to throw back to a video that Dan Williamson and I recorded on Stack Hunters this summer, Wyatt. We got to talk about this, and I also have to fix my camera. So let's take a look. he's been a top 12 tight end in the last 2 seasons that he's played in terms of fantasy points per game.
I mean, it really depends on what we see in training camp. I'm sliding him in as about tight end 24 or so.
Yeah, my projections just are very aggressive with Darren Waller, Dan. Yeah. It's hard to predict the injuries. It's still very much within the range of outcomes, Dan, that last year was not a fluke. And they will continue to funnel like passes to the Jonnu Smith type of player. And Darren Waller would still be the recipient of that. Darren Waller has proven so much more over his career than Jonnu Smith has in terms of what he offers from a fantasy upside perspective.
It's a good call by you. Props to you.
How about that, Wyatt? How about that?
Props to you.
Woo. It was bold because there was a lot of Waller skepticism. And look, it wasn't without risk. I knew it was risky because this guy's hamstrings are made of guitar strings. Like they can just snap. Could be at any moment. But it does, like, those types of players do last a while. So it was either going to be feast or famine. I didn't believe in the like wide receiver or tight end 20 ADP. I felt like that was the compromise. Like he was either going to be a top 12 or he was going to be a 0. So I wanted to take some shots on Waller in the best ball streets because sure, but in a starting in most of our redraft leagues, I didn't draft him. I'll be transparent. Like, it's very hard to roster a player who is a 0 and isn't clearly on the injured reserve. Like, at the beginning of the year, he's practicing maybe, and he's declared out right away. So this was a player that, I knew that there was risk on. And we'll see how long he lasts, but it feels nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you drafted a good amount of Darren Waller on your best ball teams, you got some good exposure there in your portfolio. If you were one of the people who like slapped down a good amount of fab in your dynasty leagues the moment that he signed to get him on your rosters, like, good on you. I missed on this one. I didn't think it was worth the risk to really spend any capital on him because I was not expecting anything, and I was wrong.
Well, I was in a 32-team league, and he was on the waiver wire because he's retired. And I got into a fab trade bidding war. Have you ever gone through this, Wyatt?
I've never personally been so thirsty for a free agent in a dynasty league that I went to this length, but I have seen it happen.
Yeah, it happened, and we were all playing chicken with each other. Like, there was me and another manager that were leading up to the deadline when we knew the waiver wire would process. And I don't think, in the last couple of years I've lived more than like because we also had contingent trades in our waiting in our sleeper, just ready to accept if we saw the other manager had accepted it.
Right.
Oh, I don't think it was so exciting. And then,
I mean, that is what fantasy football is all about right there.
This is it. It brings life. Darren Waller, the tight end 1 in points per game going into week number 7. Wild stuff. Well, we're going to take a break. Wyatt and I have been crushing it here on Man versus Machine. Make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button, giving the likes. Shout out to all those hopping into the comments. If you got questions, we're happy to answer them too. We're going to talk some Rico Dowdle. We're going to talk some Deebo Samuel and some Quentin Johnston. I know that's Wyatt's favorite. After a word from Matt Kelly about the DFS Dominator here at Player Profiler.
So let's put our hoodie on and let's talk about Player Profiler's DFS Dominator. It has a cash game optimizer that leverages the projections from Billy and Bradley and Evan and that Player Profiler AI engine to create cash game lineups that certainly have a high floor, but also give you that ceiling. Now, you've probably heard about the most powerful tool of all, our Lineup Genius. We know winning GPPs requires a completely different approach, which is why our Lineup Genius takes you through the process of selecting the quarterbacks in the juiciest matchups. Then it highlights the stacks and runbacks that are available, lets you pick the chalk level, lets you pick the level of correlation with a number of other proprietary settings available to you. Click a button and it generates hundreds of lineups to be imported into FanDuel and DraftKings. And it's just $45 a year, not a week, a year. So go fight fire with a Player Profiler DFS Dominator.
That's right. DFS Dominator. Go get it. Win your matchups. Win your DFS. It's so good. So good. Welcome back, people. Wyatt is the man.
The man.
I'm the machine.
And I'm the machine. Wyatt and Bradley here with you on a Wednesday night, talking about some of the biggest surprises so far entering week number 7. And I'll say running back Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle and I have a history. Wyatt, have I told you this story before? Maybe I have.
I don't know.
Maybe I haven't. This was my inlet to Player Profiler and taking like the next steps, because I had just been doing some podcasts occasionally for Player Profiler, no big deal. And then I have a vacation over in Connecticut, and I know that Matt Kelly, the Podfather, lives in Connecticut, and Connecticut's not a very large state. For those who have traveled the East Coast, it's not very large. So I thought, hey, maybe one of these nights while I'm traveling in Connecticut on family vacation, maybe one of these nights I can just get away and hang out, see if Matt is available. Lo and behold, Podfather is available for one night throughout the week. So I pop over to the Fantasy Mansion, which is an actual mansion hidden away in Connecticut. It's a beautiful place. Matt's got a great spot there. And we just start talking. We have dinner, hang out by the fire. It's a good time. We're talking fantasy. We're talking all these different things. And I say just offhandedly, Dallas Cowboys, they're RB2 right now. This is way back when Rico Dowdle was on the Dallas Cowboys. He's their RB2. And Matt was like, "Wait, how'd you hear about that?" And I said, "Well, I've been listening to all the beat writers. I've been getting their insights. I've been like ear to the ground.
Yeah.
I've got the insights. I know who to pick up, because it was Dowdle, or there was Malik Davis, I think was the other running back.
There's a name. Yeah.
There's a throwback. So Malik Davis or Rico Dowdle, and many people were just picking up, it was either 50-50 or more Malik Davis, right?
Yeah.
And I said, it's the clear RB2. So we chat, keep going. Don't think about it. Whatever. The next week I get a call from Matt, and he says, "Hey, Bradley, that Rico Dowdle thing really impressed me. Do you want to run the news desk at Player Profiler?" I said, "Sure, Matt. Sounds great. What does this mean?" And he's like, "Let's talk." So we talked, and that's how it worked out. That's how we got things going. So Rico Dowdle, I owe something to him, not only because he helped me in this sense, but also because I picked him up off the waiver wire in my home league this year. And Wyatt's smiling because he knows what Rico Dowdle has done. He's already talked about it a bit in reference to and in contrast of Chase Brown. Rico Dowdle, is there going to be a running back controversy, Wyatt, now that Chuba Hubbard has started to practice? Has Rico Dowdle proven that he's better than Chuba Hubbard and deserves more playing time?
I definitely think that's a conversation. I would probably lean towards Rico Dowdle being the better player at this point. And I think you have to understand the defenses he went up against, definitely helped him be as good as he is. But I think, honestly, he just fights through contact way better than Chuba Hubbard. And I think that's what the Panthers need, honestly. So yeah, I do. And I think he's better in pass protection. I think he's a little bit better of a receiver. Chuba Hubbard's receiving numbers last year, it's just like awful efficiency, like the worst efficiency you've ever seen for receiving back. So yeah, I do think this could happen.
Think it could. So you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah.
Rico Dowdle, despite, being a virtual 0, 3 of his 6 games below 4 fantasy points, he has hit over 30 fantasy points in the last 2 weeks, depending upon your league scoring, of course, like PPR leagues, but 389 rushing yards against Miami and Dallas. Look, you take advantage of bad teams, but he really took advantage of bad defenses. And now he gets the New York Jets, who did bottle up J.K. Dobbins like this past week. But then you get Buffalo in week 8, who got gashed by Algier
that defense is rough right now.
And Bijan. So, yeah, you're probably going to get a low. This is probably how it's going to go. You're probably going to have an inefficient game from Rico, even if he gets majority of carries with Chuba just getting back. And then there is an opportunity against Buffalo back again to just buy low after that bad week. So, but still, Rico Dowdle clearly like putting up almost, it wasn't LeGarrette Blount. It was, who was the guy with the J.I. numbers, where he had like 200 yards rushing in back-to-back games a few years ago. That was the vibe that I was getting from the Rico Dowdle explosions the last 2 weeks.
Brett, you got to have your moment in the sun, so I'm going to take mine because I'd love to tell you that I'm surprised, but this is my most drafted running back in best ball, so not surprised.
We're just going to keep it going. We're keeping it going. For Wyatt. All right. Give us, Wyatt, your next biggest surprise going into week 7.
Geno Smith, who I think he's gone back to Jets Geno Smith now since joining the Raiders. It's terrible. Just absolutely awful. 10 interceptions so far. He's 31st in adjusted yards per attempt at this point.
Gross.
Geno Smith joining the Raiders, in my opinion, was like, great. This is an upgrade for the offense. He's been really good in Seattle. Geno Smith is a divisive player amongst fans of the NFL. A lot of people look at Geno Smith and don't think he's that good. But I think always thought, at least since he's been starting with Seattle, that he is honestly like a top 15 QB in the league. During that time, he's a really aggressive downfield, and because of that, he gets himself into trouble sometimes, but he's consistently near the top of the completion percentage over expected, and stuff like that, and EPA per play while he was with Seattle. Joins the Raiders, and I'm like, this is awesome. It's such an upgrade for the offense. This is going to make all the weapons better. With Chip Kelly coming into town to run this fast-paced offense with him, and it's going to be this like they're going to be able to put up offense. Like this is all of a sudden a fun offense,
right?
And it's like what? Like he may have like hit a wall physically or something because he's always been aggressive, but he has not been this bad while being that aggressive. Like I haven't personally watched enough tape of Geno Smith games this year to say like one way or another. But just a little bit that I've seen of him, it just seems like he cannot get the ball where he wants to consistently enough anymore. And the aggressive throws that he was making before, which he could more routinely complete, he just can't these days. And now they're ending up as interceptions. Geno Smith was someone who I definitely targeted in superflex leagues as a QB2. He's someone I targeted in best ball where we're drafting multiple quarterbacks. And that was wrong. He's scoring 13.5 points per game. Like it's
not
just
good.
Awful. And they're also like starting to become more of a balanced offense because of it. The first couple of weeks they were passing nonstop, and we're like, okay, this is what we want. But now I don't think they can. I don't think they can rely on Geno Smith to do that anymore. It's good for Ashton Genty if you've got him on your team, because I think it just means more opportunities for him. But it's rough. It's rough right now for Geno.
It's a tough spot because I was drafting Geno as a lot of QB2, and you were able to get a lot of these cheap Vegas options. If you didn't go with Brock Bowers earlier or Ashton Genty early, you could hit up Jacoby Myers at a reasonable price. You would take shots late on Jack Besh, and you would take shots late on Donta Thornton, and you take shots late on who, like, sure, Trey Tucker's had a couple decent games. Like, that's fine from a stacking perspective. But being the quarterback 2 on your best ball team has hurt you, I think, actually, because Geno was being drafted, I think, high enough where you could have been getting value at some of the flex positions elsewhere in the best ball leagues. So it's certainly disappointing. Hope we can see some bounce back, but Jacoby Myers dealing with injury. Brock Bowers is probably going to miss week 7 again. Myers is also on the trade block, reportedly. Teams have been calling for Myers. So we'll see what happens with Vegas, whether they are viewing themselves as competitive and can move off of Myers, who demanded a trade already this past offseason and is looking for an extension. Rightly so. He's played very well before coming into this year. So yeah, Geno disappointing, but a player that we are not disappointed by, Wyatt. We are not disappointed. We're tooting this horn all off season. I felt it like it was a bold call to say Emeka Egbuka, top 24 wide receiver. I saw a pathway for it, though. That was the clip. We have the pictures. We have the sound bites places. And you know what? I was too low. We were too low on Emeka Egbuka. Wide receiver 5 in fantasy points per game and half-point scoring. Yeah, he's been scoring a ton of touchdowns. And yeah, Mike Evans has been out for a bit, and Chris Godwin has been out for a bit, and Jalen McMillan's been out for he's going to be out for the whole season. But the chemistry that Egbuka has with Baker Mayfield, I mean, we had heard about it in the preseason. They were calling Egbuka a running back that is a wide receiver. He catches the ball so smoothly. And when you're getting compliments like that, and you know you've got a first-round capital wide receiver on an aggressive throwing dog mentality type of quarterback-led team, like, this makes sense that he's hit. These are probably his upside games at the beginning of the season. It's probably going to be a tougher pathway the rest of season with Evans expected to be back soon, with Godwin ramping up. But yeah, this I think is one of the bigger surprises. Egbuka this high in going into week 7.
Yeah. Also extremely high on Egbuka coming this season. Anyone who watches this show knows that we were both like pounding the table. My pinned tweet on my Twitter right now is like the bold takes I was having for the season, and that includes Egbuka as a top 20 wide receiver. Very surprised he is this good this early. Like, I thought for sure he's going to be a productive wide receiver right away, but as explosive as he has been, like, as someone who was saying like he could play outside, he can work downfield, I was not expecting anything close to the production that he has and the way that he's getting it. He's just instantly already one of the best wide receivers in the league.
Ooh, yeah. Delicious. He is the wide receiver 3 in receiving explosive rating. He is number 3 in explosive plays on the season. The only damper as well is he suffered the hamstring injury that cost him some snaps about half of the game. He finishes wide receiver 69. Not as nice for week 6 against San Francisco. He's very questionable for week 7. In fact, it's reported that he's not expected to play for week 7. So just as you're preparing against Detroit, Tampa is probably going to be without Egbuka. I wonder if they hold him out the 2 weeks, Detroit, New Orleans, and then give him the bye and then see if he's good to go in week 10 against New England. So probably 2 weeks without Egbuka for the bye.
Yeah.
All right. Wyatt, you've got one more big surprise for us. Hit us up. Who is this player, and why are they surprising you?
Deebo Samuel, probably my second biggest miss to Javonte Williams, I would say. Another player that I just like wouldn't touch in drafts. So his 2024 season for 49ers was very rough. And there were some reasons for that. We know about the pneumonia. We know he's dealing with some injuries. But also, he's getting up there in age. He's had this physical play style. Part of me is thinking, how much is this like his career catching up with him? How long can he continue to do this? I did think he was a very good fit for the Commanders, like at exactly what they were looking for in their offense. My concern was just that, can he produce at a high level still, and will he be able to keep it up through an entire season to justify his cost? Because he's going in around round 6 or 7 in most drafts, and that's heavy draft capital. And he's just been really good. And part of that is that Terry McLaurin's been out, but his individual play has been good as well. He's second in juke rate among wide receivers, which is like, this is the things. This is Deebo. This is what we want from him. This is who he's supposed to be. 6th in yards after the catch. So he's back to being efficient on those underneath targets like we expected out of him. Kind of looking like 2024 was the outlier year and not a trend for Deebo Samuel. So yes, Terry McLaurin should be back at some point, and that will obviously hurt his projection a little bit. But I don't think it's going to hurt that much because he's such a good fit for the offense in this kind of like horizontal raid that Cliff Kingsbury likes to run. So yeah, Deebo Samuel surprised me by, I guess, looking like Deebo Samuel.
See, it's an alternating year theory here. Wyatt, he is in 2021 the wide receiver 3, 2022 wide receiver 28, and only 13 games. 2023 wide receiver 12, 2024 wide receiver 46, 2025 he's back to wide receiver 13. And this was a player that, again, this was like for the majority of the summer, I shared a similar mind with you about Deebo. And then we got near the end of the summer, and the McLaurin holdout became more real and more real. And I think that that's what, hurt a little bit, even in the preseason, was McLaurin's not there. Who's getting a lot of these manufactured touches? Who is the offense centered around without McLaurin there? Who is Daniels getting comfortable with? And it's good that it's his new toy, but Deebo Samuel now 3 receiving touchdowns, 288 yards. He has the same amount of receiving touchdowns that he had all of last year in 15 games through 6 games. His yards per reception is much, much lower, 9.3 this year compared to 13.1. So he's getting hit a lot closer to the line of scrimmage, and they're allowing him to work in space. You mentioned the juke rate is still there. He's still got the moves. And he can separate. He's number 6 among wide receivers in target separation, and he's number 7 in reception. So he's getting targets. He's getting a good catchable target rate. His target share at 27% is 13th among wide receivers. And with McLaurin out, I mean, maybe McLaurin comes back in week 7. That's a possibility. He's trending toward that. Expected to practice. But yeah, Deebo was a player that for the majority of the summer I was also didn't have almost any exposure, because we know Deebo's made of glass. Just physically, it's a matter of, is he going to last the whole season at this rate? And I think McLaurin coming back may actually help Deebo's longevity in this offense. Because we've seen Deebo miss. I mean, he missed 2 games last year, 2 games the year before. He missed 3 or 4 games in 2022. He missed half the season in 2020. So there's injury history long-term that has existed here. But, hopefully the McLaurin return to the offense. It may hurt him in terms of fantasy production, but I think we'll get a more juice out of Deebo rest of the season.
Yeah.
All right, Wyatt, I think we're almost there. We're almost there. I think the biggest surprise for me in terms of like, wow, week 1, this is not what we expected, is wide receiver Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston right now, the wide receiver 8 in fantasy points per game. He missed week 6 with a hamstring injury. He had limited practice today going into week 7. So it's hard to read into limited practices on a Wednesday, whatever. But Quentin Johnston having more targets than Ladd McConkey and more red zone usage than Ladd McConkey and better target share than Keenan Allen. I mean, Keenan Allen is like, I think he's hit the wall finally. Like the last few games has not been good for Keenan, but Johnston, 23.3% target share. This is a player who's getting, red zone targets. He's got 5 on the season. He's got 9 deep targets. He's hit up the touchdowns. Like he's connecting with Justin Herbert, number 1 among all receivers in true catch rate. So yeah, like he was so massively discounted this offseason. He was in the wide receiver 40s, 50s throughout this season. But I think that was also that Trey Harris there was a lot of hype for this day 2 prospect that the Chargers drafted. But Quentin Johnston's like, I'm the incumbent. You can come and get me. And Trey Harris has simply just not come and got him because we thought, okay, Keenan Allen was a late sign, but he's going to get starter treatment. And Ladd McConkey is clearly a star. He was getting 2nd round draft capital in our fantasy leagues. So really we thought the odd man out here was Quentin Johnston in this Chargers rotation. And in fact, it's Quentin Johnston who is now the lead target earner for the Chargers. So yeah, I can't even make sense of it, Wyatt. He doesn't do anything particularly special, but he's big and he's got good burst. So again, at the beginning of the season, we thought maybe this guy is still just a top 24 wide receiver. I think he's still just a top 24 wide receiver.
Yeah, we talked about him both on this show previously. We talked about him on press coverage. Just very surprised that he was able to make the leap that he did because he was making a leap from a very low point. Yes, he scored some touchdowns last year, but everyone who watched those touchdowns happen, over half of them were just on busted coverages.
Right.
This year, he is a different player. He's making consistent big plays across the middle of the field, after the catch, down the field. Like he's doing it all. He looks like what you hoped you'd get from Quentin Johnston when he was a prospect. A surprise as well.
Yeah, his best comparable player on Player Profiler, Josh Doxson.
little bit of helmet scouting going on there.
Ooh. Tough look for Quentin Johnston. Wyatt, I've got a bonus one. I've got a bonus guy before we sign off for the night, and that's tight end Dallas Goedert. And I think that this kind of ties in, maybe less of a surprise about Dallas Goedert. We know that he has like 7 to 12 target upside each game because he's a good player. He's a good tight end. Problem is he's on offense where there's so many mouths to feed. And he's just getting fed more often. There have been 3 of his 5 games where he's earned at least 7 targets in a Philly offense that does not throw the ball very much. So, again, Dallas Goedert, the tight end 2 in fantasy points per game. I think that's tied in partly to the disgruntledness of A.J. Brown. Maybe this is more of an A.J. Brown disappointment bonus talking point than a Dallas Goedert. Like, wow, Dallas Goedert's doing amazing. I mean, he's been the tight end 1 on a week 2 of his 5 weeks, but he's had tight end 15 or worse in 2 of his 5 weeks as well. So, yeah, how concerned are you or surprised by, instead of just Dallas Goedert, like also A.J. Brown? Because what goes up must come down. Something's got to give if Dallas Goedert's getting his work. So, we'll tie in A.J. Brown here as well.
I think the big change for Goedert is that he's getting targets near the end zone. And they're actually just like continually running this play where it's this like underhand pitch screen to Goedert where he just runs behind like the two other receivers and they just block for him and he kind of just like stumbles into the end zone. They're in that play so much. He's already tied his career high in touchdowns for a season this year. The targets are obviously it's a little bit greater than what you'd expect on a week-to-week basis, but it's not like crazy for that to happen because like you said, like he's a good player, right? It's really that end zone targets that are really making, or not end zone targets, but targets near the end zone that really make the big difference for him. Luckily, another player that like I'm not surprised that he's a value. I'm surprised how much of a value he's become because this was a player that I was in on. His price finally fell this season to where it became attractive. But he used to always be drafted, like tight end 8, tight end 9, and it was like you're probably going to get tight end 8, tight end 9 out of that. So like,
right,
not that exciting. AJ Brown, I go back and forth every day when I think about AJ Brown about how I really feel about what's going on. Is he deteriorating? Is his play actually getting a little bit worse too? Is it just the offense? Is it just Jalen Hurts? It's probably somewhere in the middle with all of that. I think it's safe to say that we can't expect old AJ Brown anymore. I'm just not sure what we can expect, what level that actually is.
Yeah, there has been some rumors flying around over the last couple weeks of is AJ Brown gonna get traded, and reportedly the Patriots have been trying to acquire AJ Brown, and I do think that the truth to the rumor is that the Patriots are trying to acquire a wide receiver to help support Drake May. I think that's the true part of the rumor. Whether it's Jacoby Myers, whether it is an AJ Brown, whether it is, a Rashid Shaheed or whoever it is that could be available. I think the Patriots are in the market. I don't know if AJ Brown is even like, I don't even know if the Eagles pick up the phone. So,
right.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Wyatt, it's been great. Thanks to the chat. We've got a couple questions here. Sure. We've got less than 2 minutes. Goedert or Kraft rest of season?
In PPR, which is a little bit of difference here between these two. I think because it's PPR, I might say Goedert right now.
I'll go
based
Goedert
on the way this roll is.
Yeah. Jackson Dart could be a monster. Jackson Dart is a good surprise this year as well. He played very well. He looks like he has the moxie. We're here for it. Great. Yeah. And then someone traded Henderson for Harvey. Eddie Lopez felt Harvey's a path Henderson's not shown with better opportunity. Yeah, we got to keep waiting on Henderson. Also waiting on Harvey. Both. Please.
Yeah, it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other right now for me. Like if you have more faith in one, that's fine, but it's like trading for the same player. Yeah.
So last one, should I trade James Cook and Zay Flowers for Rome Odunze and Bucky Irving? I'm 2-4 in a 14-man league, 8-team playoffs.
I do not do that trade because I don't know what's going on with Bucky's health. And I think it's hard to project what's going on with Bucky's health. It's not just like one injury. It's not like he's dealing with his shoulder as well. I just don't know when we can get Bucky back. And Zay Flowers, I think, is going to be better now that Lamar should be back soon. After the bye.
James Cook and Zay Flowers on bye this week. Rome Odunze has already had his bye, and Bucky Irving is still dealing with the injury.
Yeah, if we knew Bucky was playing, I could understand this trade because he'd be having the players for this week, when he doesn't have the others, but we don't have Bucky. Yeah.
All right. We got a last second. I was about to end it. How would you rank these running back stashes? Monangai, Brashard Smith, Isaiah Davis, Ray Davis, Caleb Johnson. I think at the top here has to be Isaiah Davis. There's been a lot of chatter about Breece Hall getting moved. Braylon Allen's on the IR. Monangai has been meh. Brashard Smith has been meh. Ray Davis has been also meh. Caleb Johnson's a virtual 0. So I think it's just clearly Isaiah Davis above these others.
It's honestly close between Isaiah Davis and Ray Davis to me, just because if anything happens to James Cook, we know that Ray Davis will have a really good role in a high-powered offense. Sure. Isaiah Davis is like the bigger swing because, if Brees Hall is traded, like it could be league winner type material, even if he's not that good, just in opportunities. But
Sure.
everybody else is below that. Though leaving a little light on for Brashard Smith. He'd be my third player out of this group.
Leave a light on. Wyatt. Wyatt's leaving a light on for Brashard Smith. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Check out Man vs. Machine every Wednesday at 9 p.m. On behalf of Wyatt, I'm Bradley. Till next time, good luck with week number 7.